I think when you love something so much and when you're touched and moved by something like as deeply as I was by this book, it just kind of comes naturally.
Yeah.
It comes from the heart, hits the heart, and that's kind of what kept me going throughout this whole process, is just knowing that we're working on something special that has the potential to impact millions
Blake
of lives.
Lively believes she has a strong legal case and is deep into the evidence-gathering phase. It seems like she's gaining ground because the judge is approving many of her requests for documents and information. However, it's important to understand that in cases involving workplace disputes or discrimination, judges often appear more lenient toward the person bringing the complaint. They don't want to seem like they are preventing someone from gathering the proof they need. So, just because Blake is being granted access to evidence doesn't mean that evidence will support her claims or that her case is guaranteed to succeed. What truly matters is whether her arguments stand up to legal tests like a motion to dismiss, summary judgment, or a trial. She believes her case is solid, arguing that she faced harassment, retaliation, and a campaign to ruin her name. But what she may not have expected is the way Jed Wallace and his legal team are responding. Wallace wasn't involved in the film or employed Blake, he was just a PR consultant. And now, in a federal courtroom in New York, his lawyers are carefully taking her case apart, addressing each of her points one by one, and doing so with calm and strategic legal arguments, not drama. In a recent court filing, his lawyers said that Blake's attempt to respond to their argument, just 2 paragraphs in a 31-page document, barely counts as a reply. Their tone is sharp and professional. They are focused, exact, and steady. Wallace's team is not only challenging Blake's claims against him, but also weakening her case against others involved. Blake claims Wallace and others tried to destroy her reputation before she spoke out publicly about being harassed. She says they spread stories calling her rude, out of touch, and insensitive about domestic violence. She argues that this wasn't just normal backlash. It was a targeted effort to damage her reputation, so that no one would believe her once she spoke up. But retaliation laws don't cover imagined future harm. They only apply to real events that lead to negative consequences at work. According to Wallace's legal team, Blake's lawsuit is built around damage to her reputation, not actual harm to her job. And in New York, claims about reputational harm fall under defamation law, not employment law. Defamation law is much tougher. You have to clearly point to false statements, prove they were made with bad intent, and file your complaint within a short time. And if you're a public figure, like Blake, the legal standard is even harder to meet. Wallace's lawyers say she's trying to avoid those challenges by calling it something else, like retaliation or emotional distress. But it's really just a defamation case in disguise. Her second big mistake, they say, is using California employment law, which only applies inside California. Blake doesn't live or work there, and the alleged actions didn't happen there either. So, California law doesn't apply. In short, Wallace's team is saying Blake's case is built on shaky ground, and they are working efficiently to show the court just that. Blake Lively admitted that the harassment she's talking about happened in New Jersey. Then, she filed the lawsuit in New York. Now, she's trying to apply California law to the situation, which doesn't make sense. Wallace's legal team immediately pointed this out to the judge. They reminded the court that the Fair Employment and Housing Act, FEHA, from California doesn't apply to people who don't live or work in California, especially if the behavior in question didn't happen there. This detail alone could ruin her entire case, not just against Wallace, but against everyone she's suing. Wallace's lawyers went further and explained that Blake didn't claim any wrongful behavior happened in California. In fact, she said the actions happened in New York. If the law she's using doesn't fit, the whole foundation of her case breaks down. She chose the wrong state, the wrong court, and the wrong law. And the reason she did this seems clear. They believe she was forum shopping, which means picking the location that works best for her goals, not where the actual events occurred. To try to fix the problem, Blake argued that since Wayfair is based in California, and their lawyers and payments to Wallace came from California, that should be enough to connect the case to California law. But Wallace's team tore that apart. They said just because the money or lawyers are from California doesn't mean Wallace himself did anything illegal there. Everything she's accusing him of, like planning media attacks or spreading rumors, took place outside California, and he denies doing any of it. Even if someone at Wayfair acted unfairly, she hasn't shown that Wallace knew about it or had anything to do with it. Without proof he acted with bad intent, the California law can't be used against him. Her whole argument about retaliation also has problems. She says Wallace and others tried to ruin her reputation by spreading stories that made her look bad. But she's not saying they did this because she had spoken up. She says they did it before she even went public. That's not how retaliation works. The law says someone must face real negative actions after doing something protected, like reporting misconduct. She didn't do that. Plus, during her sworn testimony, she couldn't even name a single article or quote from Wallace that harmed her. She claims there was a media storm, but can't point to anything specific he said. That's a huge weakness. Even her behavior raises questions. After claiming harassment, instead of stepping away, she asked for more control over the film. She wanted to be more involved, even though that would mean working closely with the people she accused. That doesn't match how most people respond to harassment. It makes people wonder if this was about power, not safety. Wallace's team says the whole lawsuit is just about her reputation, not real harm. They argue that Blake is misusing employment law to avoid the strict rules of defamation law. In their view, she filed in New York only because it let her get access to private records secretly, something she couldn't have done in California. But now that choice is coming back to hurt her. The mistakes she made with the location, the laws, and the lack of solid facts could end up costing her the entire case, not just against Wallace, but everyone else too. Blake Lively's legal argument for aiding and abetting is falling apart fast. Wallace's lawyers are making it clear that there's no evidence showing he knew about any wrongdoing, or that he acted out of revenge or hostility. And they are doing this without using pages and pages of legal text. In just a few sharply written points, Wallace's team is quietly tearing her case apart, piece by piece. Each argument they make is focused and precise, cutting through the noise with clear logic instead of emotional appeals or long explanations. While Blake's legal team submitted a 31-page response, Wallace's lawyers have done more damage with fewer words. It's not about how long the document is, it's about the strength of the arguments inside it. They are giving the judge multiple options to shut down the case, whether on the basis of faulty legal claims or lack of jurisdiction. Even if the judge doesn't use every one of those reasons, there are enough solid arguments to make a dismissal very likely. Her claim of retaliation also seems weak. To make that kind of accusation stick, she would need to show that she took a legally protected action, like reporting misconduct, and then faced punishment for it. But she never submitted a complaint to Human Resources. And the agreement she's using as proof of retaliation doesn't clearly say what actions took place or when. Without concrete facts, her claims sound more like guesses than real legal issues. Wallace also argues that she's trying to disguise a defamation claim as something else. She's framing it as employment retaliation, but when you look closely, it's all about damage to her public image. And in New York, defamation cases come with stricter rules. For example, you must prove false statements were made and that they caused real harm. Blake can't even point to a single thing Wallace said that hurt her. That's a serious problem for her case. Instead of just finding small flaws, Wallace's legal team is breaking down the entire structure of her lawsuit. It's as if they've knocked out the foundation, and now the rest is falling with it. They told the judge that if her argument is really about defamation, then New York law says she doesn't have the right to bring this case here. And they ended their argument by circling back to a critical point. Her reply was just 2 short paragraphs in a long legal brief, and it didn't offer any meaningful rebuttal. That's not enough. This isn't just a defense, it's a takedown. Wallace's team is setting an example for how Wayfair and others can defend themselves too. Since Blake filed the case in New York, where the rules are different and stricter than in California, she may have seriously weakened her own position. While it might look like she's making progress during the discovery phase, that doesn't mean she's actually winning. Her case may not survive this early stage at all. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.